Well, the Leafs down 1-0 in Boston to the Bruins. That hurts. Wasn't a great night. Wasn't a great game. We're going to break it all down for you right here on the OZone.
You're in the offensive zone, your place for Leafs hockey.
Hey folks, welcome to the OZone. That's Coach. We love you, KD. I'm the Devo. We're here to talk all things Leafs. Ooh, that hurt last night, but let's get after it. Coach, where are you this morning?
Yeah, I'm licking my wounds here and still in Boston, Devo. Just waiting to head back to London later today.
Yeah.
Yeah, tough one.
Tough. All right, well, folks, you know the drill. Hit subscribe, ring the bell, like, share the video, leave a comment. This is the time you want to be heard. Leave a comment. We'll get back to it as soon as we can. All right, let's get right into it, Coach. Leafs go to Boston and lose. Very matter of factly. What did you see?
It was quite a whirlwind day. I think we documented it on the socials.
Yeah.
But, the game itself, I would say this. So, look, you go to a ton of Leaf games in Toronto, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I go to a ton elsewhere. And there are buildings that are different in terms of the amount of people that are there that are Leaf fans and the overall atmosphere. Boston's not quite Philadelphia, but it's pretty close. It is a tough atmosphere. Got a little picture here. Like usually you see a bunch of blue and white. The Leaf fans travel really well. It's all black and gold in this picture. It was packed, and there was some big time. Like it felt like a big event. They were tuned in. It was loud. It was a huge atmosphere. I think going there. So I went with a buddy, and he's a Bruins fan. So I'm kind of on my own, and usually there's other Leaf fans to point at. We scored a goal, high five. I was the only guy in my section that was a Leaf fan, and it was a little disconcerting at times.
Yeah.
People they got a lot more polite when it was like 4-0.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad you came so far, but if the Leafs had been winning, it would have been a little ugly.
Yeah.
But look,
they had no idea how far you came.
well,
Coach.
that's the thing, right? So you could look at that and say, man, what a waste of time for the coach and what a waste of money or whatever. My thing is this: like, if you're a real fan, and let's face it, we have a relatively small but passionate subscriber base. You're not coming here because you don't watch the games and you just want a little snippet. Like, we dig in. We're real fans. And if you're a real fan, like the people that are watching this, and you have a chance to go to a playoff game, like, you're going.
You're going.
So I had a chance to do it, and I did it. And here's the thing about sports: you don't know how it's going to turn out.
That's right.
3 years ago, Carbuzzi, Nick, and I went to Tampa and watched the Leafs, and that was a blowout loss. And we still would have gone. We had a chance to go, so we went. So you never know. But I'll tell you, man, it's tough. Just sitting there, and they scored, and everyone's standing up and screaming, and you have to sit in your seat like this, and then everyone's yelling at you. Like, I know people behind me are yelling and pointing at me. What can you do? You can't do anything. You can't stand up and cheer. Anyway, tough atmosphere.
Yeah, tough. How should we break this down? I tell you what, let's try to go in some sort of chronological order. I think a lot of Leafs fans were a bit surprised when they woke yesterday morning to start reading the news that William Nylander wasn't going to be in the lineup, and also McMahon. Now we knew he was banged up, but I kind of felt that everyone figured he was, banged up. But if a playoff series was starting, he'd be able to go. Coach, how surprised were you to hear the news that these guys aren't playing? Here's another thing. I've been scouring the interwebs. There's no indication that they're coming back anytime soon. We might not see them this postseason.
There's the way the game one ended up. They better hurry.
Yeah.
They're going to play in this postseason. But yeah, Nylander especially, that's tricky. So you knew that the bottom six was going to be in trouble when warm-ups. I texted you, there's no 88 in warm-ups, so he didn't
Yeah.
even warm up, and McMahon too. And they were saying all along both those guys are a possibility for Game 1. You're right
Mhm.
about McMahon, and let's not kid ourselves. That guy had 15 goals. So yes, that's a hole. But Nylander's a huge hole. He had
Huge hole.
97
Yeah.
points, something like that. And the other thing is he's been shockingly durable in his career. He's missed
Yes.
one game ever due to injury. 650 some games. He's been sick a couple times.
Yeah.
One game ever to injury, and he played without getting banged up in game 82. He wakes up the next day. He's got some. They say he wakes up the next day and he's got something wrong. But it's, I mean, as Shrek would say, right? I say this all the time. It's quiet, too quiet.
Yeah.
No one's saying a thing about him, and you don't have an idea of his timing. Look, let's not kid ourselves. Leafs don't lose that game because Nylander didn't play, but it's a contributing factor, and it's a little murky, the circumstances around this.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. It's more than just a little bit disconcerting. Look, you want to be able to put your best team forward. If we're going to lose this series, we lose the series, but you want to have like your best team on the ice. Injuries are a part of the game. We recognize that, but I don't remember him getting injured. That's the tricky part. So this seems a little bit strange. Let's hope both these guys come back real quick. And get back into the lineup. We don't need excuses. We don't want excuses.
Right.
So let's just get these guys back in the lineup. All right. Speaking about the lineup here, it's clear. We talked. I guess really everyone in Leafs Nation talked about how they were going to structure the forward group. Were they going to go for goals? Were they going to go for toughness? On that bottom line in particular, really with the injuries, they kind of went with everything because Robertson played and Reeves played. So it's the great conundrum question was never really an issue. Both those guys played, but in terms of toughness, Reeves in the lineup. I think he was on the ice for that first goal 3 minutes in. What did you see, Coach? What do you make of the fourth line for Toronto?
Well, a couple different things here, right? So just to address Reeves right up front, here's a little shot. We focused on the podcast, I don't know, about a month ago about how Reeves was playing so much better in the second half because he actually is responsible. We showed where the D pinched down and Reeves was going back to cover his guy.
Yeah.
Here's a shot of the moment of impact, the moment of error on the first goal. Edmondson comes down and pinches, and Reeves decides, well, that's an easy hit. I'm going to take that hit. It's not his guy. It's Edmondson's guy. Leads to a 2-on-1. And yet again, how many frickin' times do we have to see this? The first shot of the game goes in.
Yeah. And
so now you're on your back foot after having a pretty good start, pretty physical, like a grade A chance in front. At least we're going well, and now it's in the back of your net, or your goalie still hasn't stopped one. The other thing about Reeves is, I noticed this last night. I don't know if they mentioned it on the broadcast, but he plays on that line, except when there's a defensive zone faceoff. Yarncroc went out, so you wonder why Reeves only played 7 minutes. He doesn't start with that line unless it's in the flow of the game. Yeah. It's a change on the fly. Or they get a face-off outside their zone.
Outside the zone.
So, would Noah Gregor have been better? I don't know. I actually think Reeves was pretty impactful on the forecheck. And he has more points than Matthews and Marner in this series. So, yeah, that's Reeves. But look, overall, the other question here is just toughness, okay? The Leafs made a bet and with the construction of this roster, and it's not just Reeves. They added more grit. Domi, Bertuzzi, Simon Benoit. Like, it was to be bigger, Edmondson bigger and tougher, right? So lots of people have been saying the reason they're not succeeding in the playoffs is they're not tough enough. So they're tougher, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened? Like now, it's only a 1 game sample size. I will grant you that. Where's the response when it was 2-0, 3-0? Where's the response? That's a tougher team, right? Well,
Yeah.
yeah. So what's the difference? Well, there isn't one just yet. I'll be
Yeah.
interested to see how this responds. There's no doubt the Leafs were more physical. 50 hits last night in a 100-hit game. That's
Hmm.
not the Leafs calling card, right? It is
Hmm.
Boston's. So the Leafs matched them physically and lost 5-1. Is that better? Does that make us feel better about ourselves because the team is tougher?
Yeah.
I don't think so,
No.
ultimately.
Yeah, it's true. Here's the deal with this team. You got a bunch of guys making over 11 million bucks. Those guys need to put their fingerprints on this series. Uh, if Domi wants to take some cheap shots at Marchand and get in the game, Reeves wants to go on the forecheck and rattle around, pinball around some guys, that's great. If McCabe wants to go back, face wash some guys in the corner, maybe get a couple little of these in there, that's great. That's all wonderful. But you've got 50 million bucks pretty much on 4 guys. Those guys have to have their fingerprints on this series, or it does not matter. There is no scenario where we're all going, wow, see how many goals Dewar scored? Or can you believe that incredible play Noah Gregor made? He was on fire in the third period. Put the team on his back. No. No. Like, those guys are guys. The organization needs the stars to be stars. It's the only way to go. It's the only hope.
So you're right, Devo. Look, I think we're going to end this with what's at stake Monday night, I think. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
save some of this for that. But so I'm sitting here in the hotel at breakfast. I look
Mm-hmm.
over the guy beside me. Here's a picture of him. It's Matthew's dad. And so I'm looking at him. He's looking at me. I got this shirt on. He's got a jacket with a Leaf logo on it. We just nod. Like I know who he is. He has no idea who I am. I don't believe he's a subscriber.
Well, you never know.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but you kind of do.
He was
Uh,
he was a little bit starstruck, Coach. He
he
would have
must
come
have
over
been.
and asked for an
Yeah, he didn't want
autograph.
to be a fanboy, right? So, so anyway, I look at that guy and I think, okay, so he's got his oldest kid's a 97, same as me. He's got a kid at Arizona State, same as me. Like, he's just a mid-50s guy like me, and he's going to support his kids, except for, and I'm sure he's equally as proud of his kids as I am. I'm super
Mm-hmm.
proud of all my kids.
Mm-hmm.
He has a kid that does something. He is the best on this planet at doing something, which is
Mm-hmm.
scoring goals. So that's great power and it's great responsibility. Like I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking I was going to come on here and just scorched earth against the Stars, just like you said, because they
Yeah.
have to deliver and they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at that guy. I'm like, there's also a human side to this.
Yeah.
Sure there is. So I'm not going to yell and scream, but he has to deliver. He has to. He's almost a point a game. He's over a point a game guy in his career in the regular season, and he's half a point a game in the playoffs. He has to score. The whole team's built around him. He has to do more.
Yeah.
And you and KD held me to task about this. The third year we're doing this, right? I would give Matthews a pass. Best Leaf I've ever seen play. He's doing his part, and I'd focus on Marner, and Tavares is too easy, and I'd focus on other guys. Hey, Matthews is lumped in there. He has to do more.
Has to.
Marner, is there an APB out on him? He did nothing last night.
Yeah.
But I would always focus just on that and not Matthews. And now I'm coming around to where you guys are. He's part of it. He has to deliver even more than those other guys. If
Yeah.
you want to be in the same bracket as McKinnon, as McDavid, as Kucherov, you have to deliver like those guys do. And he hasn't yet. He has to. He's running out of time.
Yeah. You're exactly right. And And I think the underlying thing is right. The team is tougher, but it means nothing. You still gotta score goals. The toughness means that you get back up when you get punched in the face, but
Well,
you still gotta score some goals.
yeah, you're right. Here, one other thing about toughness, it's a double-edged sword. And by the way, why would you ever buy a single-edged sword? Seriously, aren't all good swords double-edged? So it's a double-edged sword. This whole toughness thing. The toughness that they added was at the expense of defensive forwards and penalty killers.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps we talk a little bit about special teams because you were seeing the effects of that.
Yeah.
We're tougher.
Yeah.
But what's the downside?
So this is an interesting conundrum too. I think you and I have really focused on this issue in two different ways. You have been a critic for a long time of the coaching that the Leafs have. With the star power they have on the power play, there's no excuse for them. There's no excuse for them to be somehow like in the top 7 in the league when they really haven't scored many power play goals in the last month and a half. Gives you an idea of how incredible February was.
Yeah.
But I've been focusing really since July 2nd or 3rd that the special teams, the penalty kill, is going to be a significant problem, which was a relative strength for this team in the last couple of seasons. Just because I didn't think they had the horses or the personnel to play defensive hockey, and my goodness, that was pretty much the difference last night. Every time the Leafs took a penalty, it seemed to go in the back of the net.
Well, we can't say you didn't say it was coming. I don't know if you're getting tired of this, Devo, but you called it. You called it to start the year. Who's going to kill penalties? And you're right. The penalty kill is awful. Power play stinks too. Yeah. But and even Keefe said it was slow, it was disjointed. But the penalty, so you can't play undisciplined like Domi or careless like Bertuzzi and even Matthews. Both those guys get high sticking calls.
Yeah.
If your penalty kill is like that, you just have no margin for error, and that's what happens. So you look at a series like this, okay? So how can coaching impact a series like this? Well, there's structure, the way you've wanted to play all year. I don't think anybody could look at that game and say that the Bruins aren't a very structured team. They play their structure to a T. They scored 5 with a vastly inferior forward group. Mm-hmm. No one would argue different because they all play the same way. They're structured. That's coaching. And then special teams. Much of that is coaching. Yes, some of it's talent. Are you telling me Toronto's power play shouldn't be better? Look at the talent. But it's not. It's awful. And the penalty kill, goalie aside, which we'll cover as well, need a save at some point. The penalty kill is just not there either. How many times do I have to say this? We're getting out coached. We're going to get out coached in this division. Montgomery, Cooper, Maurice. I mean, it's not even fair, really. Yeah. So that's where we are. We're going to have to try and win this 5-on-5 if the special teams are such garbage like they are. It's embarrassing to watch, Debo. I look at us killing penalties, and I think about you. You've been harping on it for 6 freaking months. And nothing has changed. In fact, it may be worse.
Yeah, it's amazing. And you mentioned structure, and I know there's a lot of fans out there who go, yeah, but what do you really mean by structure? But let's go back to the very first point. And when you sort of circled out Reeves taking the hit, taking the wrong guy, taking the hit instead, and it ends up being an odd man rush against, and the puck's in the back of the net before you even really feel like you're in the game. How many times has that happened in just 2024 for the Leafs? I mean, I almost don't remember a game where that hasn't happened. It happens every game. Every game that happens. So if it's happening every game, I'm sorry, but and you could say, well, yeah, the coach might be telling the players to do stuff and they're just not doing it. Well, then they shouldn't play. And the coach has the ability to do that. He wanted to bring accountability in. These mistakes at the other team's blue line that go against us as odd man rushes happen almost every night with the Leafs. And
Yeah,
that doesn't happen on a Paul Maurice team.
no, you're right. He made the guys accountable. Didn't he sit David Kemp for one game? Take that, undisciplined play.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing.
Oh, he comes and scores for the
Do
Leafs.
you know how many odd man rushes the Leafs had last night? I think you do. It was this many, right? Now, Yarncroc got in, but that was on a line change.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, because structure. Because of structure. It's just it's so frustrating that we could talk about this time and time again that we have to watch this out of this team.
Yeah. All right, Coach. We talked about the special teams. We talked about the penalty kill. We all know if you want to have a really good penalty kill, it's great to have forwards who skate. Great to have defensemen who can block a lot of shots. But the most important player when you're on the penalty kill is your goaltender. What did you see from the goaltending last night in Boston, Coach?
This is a tough one because it could have been 7 or 8-1. Like they hit a bunch of posts.
A lot of posts.
And the Leafs did not play well defensively as a team. That's a structure thing too. But look, they didn't. The Bruins didn't have as many shots, but they had a lot of grade A chances, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you look at each goal of the 4 Samsonov let in individually, and you could say, like, he can't be at fault there. But so I don't think he played bad, but you need a save. Swayman gave a save. Let me give you an example here. This is on the power play. Here's one shot, okay? DeBrusk, this is one picture, I mean. DeBrusk is just about to shoot this, and you see Samsonov looking around the screen. Now he's looking the other way. He probably should be on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And you could say, so that shot comes half a second later and it goes in. Beats him on the blocker side.
Blocker side, yep.
And you could say, well, he can't stop that. He can't see it. Should he stop that? I don't know if I'd say should, but he has to. He has to make a save at some point, right? I mean, maybe he's got to look I don't know what it is, but you got to battle through and make a save. The guy at the other end is making those saves.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you can't fault him on any individual goal, but collectively, his save percentage is like 800 in that game. The other guy stood on his head.
Yeah. It's amazing the embarrassment of riches over there, too, because Boston, in their style, is probably going to start the other goalie on Monday night.
Yeah, it's funny. So, like, just talking to guys, like, in and around, Bruins fans, like, in lineups for stuff, they don't like the goalie rotation. They're like, you play the hot guy, but it's been working for us. And, by the way, the other guy, Omar, had a way better second half. What an embarrassment of riches. You're right.
Yeah, it's incredible. Okay, Coach. Monday night, they do it again. I guess it's funny. Sports is an amazing thing. So the sky is falling in Leafland. Everyone's dejected today. But you win a game Monday, and all of a sudden you have home ice advantage. So, whether you lose 1-0 or 5-1, it doesn't matter in a 7-game series. You got to win the games. So Monday night, what's at stake here?
Yeah, really good question, and you're right. I tried to come on here and not overreact because that was an awful game, but it's only one game. Leafs lost 7-4 last year, game 1 to Tampa, won the series in 6. It could happen. It very well could happen that the Leafs turn it around. But when you lose for the first game and when you lose it in this manner, like last year and like last night, it puts a lot on game 2. Because I don't think there's anyone out there, maybe not even Curtis in Alberta or the guy on the Rock, would say that the Leafs are a good bet to come back when you're down 2. Yep. It's a huge, huge game, not just for this series, for more. Okay, I said that after that debacle against Montreal, you got to at least fire the coach and break up the model. The top-heavy model doesn't work. You got to change the roster. I said that against Montreal. Said that in the Tampa loss. I even hinted at it after that 5-game loss to Florida. Even though the Leafs won a round, Is that sustainable? Does that look like a team that can make a long run? Well, I don't think anyone, how could you possibly argue that we should just run this all back if it happens yet again? That's what's at stake here in this game, unless they're going to pull off a probable comeback from 2 down. There's a lot riding on this game. I will say the Leafs traditionally, when they're down, have given their best effort. It's what's needed. So I'm not going to overreact. I'm not saying fire the coach and change the roster yet, but I'm close, right? I'm a game away from doing it. So that's what's, I believe, at stake. And by the way, if you look at how the roster has to change, like a lot of these pieces are locked in, right? Tavares will take a lot less, but Matthews is locked in, Nylander's locked in, Riley's locked in. You know the guy that isn't.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely right.
Wouldn't you like him to show up in this series?
He better. Shanahan should be rooming with him right now because I think that's his job.
Yes. Yes.
Game 2, who's your goalie?
Oh, this is a tough one. It sure sounds like it's Samsonov, the way we've talked post-game. So we try and stay away from the hot takery on this thing, right? Although you had a spicy hot take about the
I did.
Yeah, I love it. But here's so I'm not doing this to be a hot take. I just want to get this out here. I said it in our preview to the season podcast, and I'm going to say it again here. I think the best goalie in the Leafs organization isn't playing right now. I think it's Joseph Woll. I don't think he got a good enough shot at winning the game 1 crease. He came back. He played 2 against Boston. His first 2 games back, they lost both. And it was like, okay, well, Samsonov's our guy, so let's just get him ready. And he got the bulk of the playing.
Yeah.
I would play Joseph Woll.
And he was awful.
Yeah. I would play Joseph Woll in game 2. I think he's got an upside to him that Samsonov doesn't have. I think he's got a calmness that Samsonov doesn't have. Here's the problem, though. If you take Samsonov out after that game where it really isn't his fault, but it kind of is.
Yeah, you're breaking him.
It's gone. Yeah. Russian machine broken. Yeah. So it's tricky, man. I don't think that they're going to do that. I think Samsonov's going to start. I'd have the shortest of leashes, though.
I agree. I think you're exactly right. And I think it's a really bad situation, a tough call to make. And I think it's really tough because if I'm reading the tea leaves, that means he's on a short leash. That means the most likely chances we're going to see Joseph Woll later in game 2, which means the damage is already done. And you got a guy coming off the bench, which is always a bad situation. It's not good. Leafs got to score the first goal next game Monday night. And they gotta just start leaning on him offensively. They got to get the Stars going. All right, folks. Well, there you have it. Down 1 game. Sky's not falling, but it's not an ideal outcome. But you win 1 more, you got home ice advantage. Anyways, listen, folks. You stay with us. It's going to be a long series. Right here on the OZone.